Shadows crawl across the walls of your mind. The weight of silence presses down like 1,000 cold hands trying to drag you under. Every glance, every whisper, every carefully crafted smile around you screams one cruel truth. You were never meant to belong, not to their world, not to their rules, and certainly not to their throne. You weren't born to follow. You weren't made to fit into the cracks they carved out for you. You were forged in fire, broken by storms, and rebuilt in the darkness with a mind sharper than any sword. This is the story of that rise, the silent rebellion of a soul pushed to the edge, underestimated, dismissed, but never defeated. You weren't meant to join them. You were meant to lead them. Today, we dive deep into the darkness where power is born. This isn't about loud victories or easy wins. It's about silent revenge, the kind that creeps through your veins, waking every broken piece inside you and turning pain into your fiercest weapon. If you've ever felt like the world was trying to cage you, this is your escape. If you've ever been told you're too much, too different, too dangerous, this is your proof that those labels are your real power. There's a moment in life when you're called into the room. The air feels heavy, the voices are calm, almost too calm, like they've been rehearsing for this exact moment. They talk about opportunity, about belonging, about becoming part of something bigger. They're smiling, but it's the kind of smile that hides teeth, the kind that pretends to welcome you when in reality it's measuring you. They're not offering you a throne. They're offering you a cage wrapped in gold. And the trick? They make it look so damn appealing that most people walk in willingly, grateful for the chance. You feel it in your gut before your mind can even form the words. That tightening, that warning. They're not asking you to grow. They're asking you to shrink in a way that looks respectable. They're offering you the illusion of power while making sure you'll never touch the real thing. This is what it means to play small, to silence your own voice so you can echo theirs, to trade your fire for their comfort, to stand still while convincing yourself you're moving. But here's the truth they'll never admit: the invitation isn't about you. It's about them, keeping their control unshaken, about making sure no one rises high enough to challenge their carefully built tower. You are a potential threat dressed as a guest, and the moment you accept, you're no longer a threat. You're a pawn dressed as a king. Most people accept. They sit at the table, nod at the right moments, laugh at the right jokes, and swallow the urge to speak their truth. They convince themselves it's only temporary, that they'll play along for now and break free later. But later never comes, because every day you sit in their shadow, you lose a little more of your own shape. Every time you compromise just to belong, you chip away at the foundation of who you are until there's nothing left but the version of you they built. You can feel it, can't you? That quiet rage under your skin, the one that tells you something isn't right. That itch in your soul that refuses to be still. That voice in the back of your mind that whispers you were never meant to fit in here. That voice is dangerous because once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And they know it. That's why they'll distract you with praise, flatter you with empty titles, and keep you busy with meaningless tasks that feel important but lead nowhere. And here's the most twisted part. They want you to think it's your choice. They want you to believe you're lucky to be there, that you were chosen. Because if you believe it's a privilege, you'll never question the chains. You'll smile through the weight, you'll thank them for your prison, and you'll call it loyalty. That's the game. That's the trap. And that's why so few ever escape it. But you see through it. You notice the way their eyes shift when you speak your mind. You catch the hesitation in their tone when your ideas carry too much truth. You watch the way they try to steer your ambition into safer water. You've realized something they wish you hadn't. The invitation was never about welcoming you in. It was about keeping you down. And the day you understand that, something changes. The room doesn't feel so impressive anymore. Their smiles don't seem so warm. The table they invited you to feels smaller, weaker, less real. Because now you know you were never supposed to sit at it. You were supposed to build your own. This is where the story begins. Not with acceptance, but with refusal. Not with applause, but with silence. You don't storm out in rage. You don't burn the bridge just yet. You walk away quietly and they don't even notice at first. That's the beauty of it. They think you're still in the game, but you've already left. And that is the first step in making sure you'll never ever play small again.
The moment you refuse them, the air shifts. It's not obvious at first. No dramatic thunderclap, no instant fallout. But it's there, hidden in the way they look at you, in the pauses that last just a second too long. You've done something most people don't dare to do. You've said no to comfort, no to belonging, no to their version of your future. And in that single decision, you've drawn a line that can never be erased. They'll never admit it, but your refusal unsettles them. Not because they can't replace you, they can. Not because they can't move on, they will. It's because deep down they know what kind of person turns down a gilded cage, someone who's not afraid to lose. And people like that, they can't be controlled. They can't be bribed, they can't be owned. But here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Refusal comes with a price. At first it's loneliness. The kind that feels like an empty echo in your own chest. Friends fade. Contacts vanish. Conversations grow colder. The invitations stop coming. They won't openly call you an enemy, but you'll feel the distance like frost on your skin. The world you thought you knew slowly closes its doors, one by one, until you're left standing in the quiet, wondering if you made the biggest mistake of your life. There's no applause for this part of the journey. No one celebrates you for walking away. In fact, most will look at you with pity, as if you've lost something important. They'll whisper that you were foolish, reckless, maybe even unstable. And some nights when the silence feels too heavy, you might believe them. You'll lie awake replaying the moment you turned them down, asking yourself if you just destroyed your shot at everything you've ever wanted. That's the trap of refusal. It forces you into the unknown, and the unknown is terrifying. There are no roadmaps here, no one telling you the next step. It's just you, your thoughts, and the echo of a choice you can't undo. And in that silence, the doubt creeps in like smoke through the cracks. That's when they win, if you let it. But here's where it shifts. Here's where the pain becomes your sharpening stone. Because when you refuse them, you strip away every false layer they wrapped around you. You lose the fake support, the conditional loyalty, the empty praise, and what you're left with is raw, unfiltered truth. And it's in that rawness that you find something most people will never touch in their entire lives, your own unbreakable center. You start to realize that the cost of refusal isn't a loss, it's a trade. You gave up their approval, and in return you got your freedom. You surrendered the comfort of being liked, and in return you gained the power of being feared. Not because you're cruel, but because you can't be owned. They don't fear your temper. They fear your independence. They fear the fact that you walked away and didn't crumble. Here's the cruel irony. The same people who called you foolish will one day call you brilliant. The same people who said you'd never make it without them will whisper your name like a warning. But that day only comes if you survive this one. The cold days, the empty room, the moments when it feels like you're walking blind. Silence. It's the most underestimated weapon in the world. People think strength is in the roar, in the speech, in the fight.
They think the only way to show power is to stand in the center and make noise. But the real power, it's in the pause, in the stillness, in the way you stop feeding them answers and start letting them choke on their own assumptions. When you go silent, you change the rules. You deny them the comfort of knowing where you stand. You strip them of the ability to predict your next move. Every human being craves certainty. And when you take it away, they start to sweat. They start to guess. And when they guess, they make mistakes. At first, your silence will irritate them. They'll poke at you trying to pull a reaction, trying to bait you into breaking the calm. They'll ask loaded questions. They'll throw little jabs. They'll create situations just to see if they can get a rise out of you. But when you don't bite, when you don't give them the satisfaction, you flip the balance of control. Suddenly you're the one holding the line and they're the one scrambling to figure out what's going on inside your head. Silence isn't weakness, it's the sound of power collecting itself. Every second you hold back your words, you're gathering energy, stacking it, compressing it until the moment you choose to unleash it. And when you do, it won't be noise, it'll be precision. Every syllable will hit like a blade. They'll try to fill your silence for you. They'll invent stories about why you're quiet. They'll assume you're scared, unsure, or broken. Let them think that. Let them build those narratives in their heads. Because every story they tell themselves about you becomes a blind spot. And blind spots are where power lives. See, the danger of always talking is that you give them your playbook. You hand over your thoughts, your fears, your plans. And once they have that, they can anticipate you. They can trap you. But when you move in silence, they can't catch you because they don't know where to aim. Silence is also a mirror. When you stop speaking, people start revealing themselves. They fill the space with their own words, their own confessions, their own truths. In your quiet, they get careless. They say too much. They expose the cracks they worked so hard to hide. And all you have to do is listen. It's in those moments when they think you're just sitting there doing nothing, that you're actually building your entire strategy. Every detail they let slip becomes a piece of the puzzle. Every careless word becomes a weapon you'll keep tucked away until the right moment. And here's the part they never see coming. Silence isn't forever. It's not about disappearing completely. It's about waiting. Waiting until the exact second when speaking will shift the ground under their feet. You don't waste words. You don't speak just to fill the air. You speak to change the game. When that moment comes, when you finally decide to break your silence, your words will carry weight they can't match, because you haven't been wasting your energy on arguments or proving you've been sharpening your mind in the shadows. And when the blade is ready, you won't have to swing it twice. In a world addicted to noise, silence is rebellion. It's control. It's the calm before the storm that they can feel but can't escape. And when you've mastered it, you don't have to chase respect or demand attention. It comes to you, not because you asked for it, but because the silence made them realize you were never the one being watched. You were the one watched.
There comes a point where you realize the damage isn't going away. The cracks are permanent. The scars aren't fading. And in that moment, you're faced with a choice. Live as the broken version of yourself, or rebuild into something they can't even recognize. Rebuilding the mind isn't like fixing a wall or replacing a door. It's not clean, it's not easy, and it's not quick. It's tearing yourself apart piece by piece, examining every part of who you are and deciding which pieces stay and which need to burn. It's a brutal process, because it forces you to admit how much of yourself was never really you in the first place. It was them, their opinions, their fears, their rules. You start seeing how deep their fingerprints go. And when you do, you start cutting them out, one by one. At first, the rebuilding feels impossible. You've lived so long in their blueprint that you can't even imagine what it's like to think without their voice in your head. You'll try to make decisions and you'll hear their doubt. You'll try to dream bigger and you'll hear their laughter. That's the ghost of their control. And it takes time to kill it. But every time you choose differently,
Every time you do something they never wanted you to do, the ghost gets weaker. Rebuilding is not about going back to who you were before they got to you. That person is gone. This is about creating someone they never could have handled. Someone sharper. Someone who sees the traps before they're set. Someone who doesn't just survive the game. Someone who rewrites it. And the fuel for this rebuild? Pain. Not the kind that just hurts, but the kind that teaches. Every betrayal becomes a lesson in loyalty. Every insult becomes a reminder of your worth. Every failure becomes a blueprint for the next move. You start to wire your mind differently. Where before you reacted with emotion, now you respond with calculation. Where before you sought approval, now you measure advantage. Slowly, your thoughts stop being about proving them wrong and start being about proving yourself right. You no longer need their validation, because you've built something stronger than their opinion, self-certainty. The kind of certainty that doesn't need applause to exist. The kind of certainty that makes people nervous, because they can't figure out where it comes from. You begin to see how dangerous you've become. Not because you're reckless, but because you're controlled. You don't speak unless it matters. You don't move unless it counts. You're no longer running on instinct. You're running on precision. And in that precision, there's power that no one can take from you. This is the stage they never wanted you to reach. The moment you stop needing them entirely. Because a mind that has rebuilt itself is a mind they can't break again. They could strip you of everything physical, money, titles, connections, and you'd still come back. Because now you understand the blueprint. Now you know how to build yourself from scratch. And here's the irony. The stronger your mind becomes, the quieter you get. Not because you have less to say, but because you no longer waste energy trying to explain yourself to people who aren't on your level. You've rebuilt into someone who doesn't just survive the storms. You use them to strengthen your walls. When the rebuilding is complete, you'll walk into the same rooms you once felt small in, and nothing will feel the same. You'll see the fear in their eye, not because you've changed the game, but because you've changed yourself. And that is a kind of power they can't touch. There's a moment when the scales tip, when the world you once knew, the rules you once followed, the voices you once obeyed, all of it falls away like dust in a storm. That moment isn't marked by fireworks or grand announcements. It's quiet, subtle, almost invisible to those around you. But inside it's a war cry. Silent, fierce and unstoppable. You've walked the line between shadow and light for so long, watching others make decisions, following paths carved out by someone else's hands. You've been a player on their board, a follower in their parade. But now something inside cracks wide open, a force that refuses to be contained. It's the shift from asking permission to taking control, from waiting in the wings to stepping onto the stage and owning every second of the spotlight. Followers wait for signs. Leaders create them. Followers dream of permission. Leaders burn the permission slips and build their own rule. The difference isn't just attitude. It's action. It's in the way you stop looking for approval. Stop wondering if you're ready. And instead start moving because you are ready. The shift from follower to leader is a mental revolution. It's the point where hesitation dies and certainty takes its place. This change doesn't come from confidence alone. Confidence is easy to fake. This is deeper. It's born from pain, from survival, from realizing that no one is coming to save you, and that the only way out is through your own fire. It's a hunger that consumes doubt, that turns fear into fuel. When you make this shift, you become something unpredictable, someone who breaks the cycle, who rewrites the story, who refuses to be cast in a supporting role ever again. Leaders don't wait for the perfect moment. They take imperfect moments and make them perfect. When you cross this line, You start seeing opportunities where others see walls. You begin to build bridges in places everyone else gives up. You stop chasing after the crowd and start creating your own movement. And this is what terrifies the system. Not loud rebellions or chaotic outbursts, but quiet, relentless leaders who move with purpose and precision. The kind of leader who doesn't need to shout to be heard, because their presence commands attention. The shift also means shedding old habits, those chains that kept you tethered to other people's expectations. No more second guessing, no more apology tours, no more bending to fit molds that were never made for you. Leadership demands authenticity, raw and unapologetic. It demands owning your scars as much as your strengths, owning your darkness as much as your light. This authenticity is power. It's magnetic. It pulls the right people in and repels the wrong one. It's the difference between being a follower waiting for approval and being a leader who makes others want to follow. Most importantly, this shift rewires your mindset about failure. Leaders don't fear falling. They understand it's part of the climb. Failure isn't a stop sign. It's a stepping stone. Each mistake, each setback is data, a lesson carved into the map that only true leaders can read. When you lead, you don't just endure failure. You use it to sharpen your vision, to fuel your rise higher than ever before. This is the moment you stop living in other people's stories and start writing your own epic. You don't just participate in the game anymore. You change it. And once you step into that role, you realize the greatest power isn't in the titles or trophies, but in knowing you're the one who calls the shot.